webcast, Cloud Governance, the key to successful cloud adoption and deployment. As part of this presentation, there will be a live demo of the Jamcracker's hybrid cloud GRC solution, put the theory into practice. This webcast is part of our monthly series. Today we have Steve Crawford, Vice President Jamcracker, and Bob Bellevue as your presenters. So let's get started, gentlemen.
Great, thank you, Tony, and thanks everybody for joining us for the next hour. I think you'll find this session pretty interesting. We're going to first go through, some of the challenges that we're seeing in the market. I think these are commonly viewed challenges that people are seeing as cloud adoption is increasingly going, mainstream, so organizations of all types. And we'll talk a little bit about the Jamcracker solution. We've been in this space for a lot of years, and so we'll share some of our, what we've learned and some of what we've seen as best practices with you. And then I'll turn it over to Bob at that point, and we'll do a quick, about 20-minute walkthrough of the product to help you actually kind of visualize, some of these things that we'll be talking about. So you can see firsthand how this type of solution could help your organization address some of these common cloud governance issues. And then time permitting, we'll go through a few case studies, and also we'll try to allocate some time as we go, and especially at the end for addressing any questions you might have. So you'll see in your window that you've got the opportunity to submit questions. We'll try to get to as many as we can during the session. So just a quick intro on Jamcracker for those of you that aren't familiar with us. We've been in the business of aggregating services management and delivery since our founding back in 1999. We've got a lot of experience working with organizations of many different types, including Tier 1, Tier 2 communication service providers, telcos, around the world. Large IT distributors who are getting into the game of wanting to distribute cloud services, IT providers, and certainly, the last few years there's been a very strong area of growth and interest with government and enterprise IT organizations who are looking at the types of platform that we have to help them consolidate how they manage and deliver hybrid cloud services within their organizations to their end users. So let's kind of drill down into some of the, the scenario that's facing most enterprise IT organizations today. When I say enterprise IT, that really cuts across, a lot of different segments, including, government IT organizations and nonprofits. So I'm kind of using the enterprise term generically. But one of the key reasons why cloud is becoming much more of a mainstream interest is for two things, or a few things actually. The first is that from an inside-out perspective, IT organizations have recognized the value that the cloud delivery model offers in terms of increasing agility and flexibility. In terms of reducing the cycle times that it takes for IT organizations to spin up new infrastructure services, to deploy new application services, build custom solutions as needed for their internal users. Certainly, it's also being driven by end user adoption of public cloud services as well. We all hear the term shadow IT, cloud sprawl, things like that. So we're seeing a lot of this is no different than any other technology wave, going back to, when PCs started showing up in enterprises, when browsers and web servers started showing up, when mobile devices started showing up. There's always kind of an action and reaction, and the action is the user-driven adoption, and the reaction is typically IT organizations, trying to figure out how to make this a mainstream part of how they deliver and support the IT needs of their users. And so certainly we're seeing a big trend now with, first of all, IT organizations wanting to figure out how to address governance, risk, compliance types of issues related to their end users, going out and in many cases organically adopting, public cloud services. The second thing is to consolidate the vendor management. So, for example, instead of a large organization maybe having lots of pockets of users who are using a wide variety of different public cloud providers that offer the same thing. I'll give you an example: Dropbox versus Box versus Google Drive versus SharePoint versus others. It's consolidating, basically brokering and consolidating user demand for those services, and standardizing on certain services, and using that organization-wide buying power to get better sourcing agreements with those vendors. So we're seeing a move towards centralizing the procurement of cloud services, regardless of who ultimately owns the budget. We're seeing, the centralization of the procurement management. Third key driver here is just the whole issue of how users are interacting with their data, with their applications, is very much different than it was 10, 15 years ago. There's now an expectation that at any time, anywhere, any device, whether it's my laptop, my home computer, my mobile device, my iPad, my expectation is, as many users, that I should be able to get access to my apps, my data, email, etc., 24/7, as in many cases. So what this does is it presents to IT kind of a challenge in that it's no longer as much of a lockdown type of environment. It's very much a decentralized environment, and with a decentralized environment, there are some key issues that need to be addressed. The key topic on this one is governance, but it's also how do I consolidate the provisioning, billing, support, integration management, customization, etc., of all of these different distributed services. So in fact, if you look at what sort of the key focus areas are from IT executives, this is a very interesting survey that IDC did late last year with CIOs and other senior IT execs. And it was really around, kind of peeling the onion on understanding, where do IT organizations themselves view, how their roles are going to transform moving forward. And, especially with this cloud, type of adoption becoming a much more of a mainstream part of their IT strategy. And, probably not a lot of big surprises here. Some of the biggest responses are, important role will be to protect sensitive data and manage business risk from internal IT and public cloud services, right? That's always been a top concern for IT, as it should be. But again, one of the key issues here with decentralized cloud usage and adoption is how do you do that in a fairly decentralized environment. Other things like the number 2 item is more around, how do I streamline my internal processes for how I can build, develop, test, deploy, new services and things like that. And again, this is another example where the cloud model fits hand in glove with, with these goals. A third one has to do more with spend management. How do I optimize IT spending across the organization? How do I actually implement a chargeback model to my lines of businesses? Now, one of the interesting things, as you kind of look through this, it's sort of like, yeah, okay, well, these are the kinds of things that, different IT, best practices. ITIL, as an example, have talked about many of these things for years, improving service delivery flexibility, chargeback model, the whole notion of IT organizations acting as a service provider, to their internal customers, the business units. But what's interesting is, and in fact, it's in my mind probably the most impactful thing about, cloud adoption is that it's not really the technology itself that is the most disruptive thing to most organizations. It's not the cloud technology itself. It's really the impact that it has on internal and external business models. And so I think that's, probably the key thing that we're dealing with here is what is the IT business model moving forward as the IT organization becomes not only a cloud provider to their internal customers, but also a cloud aggregator of external third-party services, and how can they apply that, that governance and IT management overlay around all those services. So what we do at Jamcracker is that we provide a platform that allows organizations to unify the management and service delivery lifecycle for how they, onboard various cloud services, regardless of whether it's infrastructure level services or application level services, regardless of whether these are from public cloud providers or from your own internal data center. So with that, basically the whole life cycle for how you select services, how you publish services to a catalog, a service catalog. Again, another common term with ITIL is service catalog. Enabling self-service fulfillment, enabling automated provisioning for users based on their roles within the organization. Communicating and enforcing policies in terms of which users, which user groups should have access to which services. So, one of the key tenets here is that a one-size-fits-all services catalog is not really a good or viable or scalable solution. When you've got hundreds of different cloud services that are being used across your organization, you don't want 80% of what any given user is looking at to be non-relevant to their role within the organization. So, for example, you don't want to present somebody in sales or marketing with an opportunity to order, compute instances on Amazon Web Services, just like you probably don't want your engineers, asking for accounts on Salesforce.com. So one of the key things that we do in our platform is heavily leverage our roles-based access control authorization types of capabilities so that you can define policies around which user groups should have access to which services should be automatically provisioned, like email, things like that, which services should be provisioned automatically for certain user groups. So new employee joins the sales group. Now you probably want them to automatically get an account on your Salesforce automation system, whether it's Salesforce or an internal CRM. Just like developers, when they join, you want to provide them with the developer tools and compute services in your services catalog. So we implement what we call roles-based views of the services catalog. So based on your role within the organization or what department affiliation you have, will determine what services, based on your own internal policies, should be viewable and orderable by you. We can also, enable you to set approval policies, right? So, certain services that maybe user orders from the services catalog, if it's within a certain budget threshold, and that department that user belongs to hasn't exceeded that budget threshold, then, your policy may be go ahead and automatically approve and provision that user. Whereas you may have other thresholds where, okay, if this request exceeds a certain budget authority, requires managerial authority. So basically what we do with our platform is we automate a lot of these processes that happen in the back end, and quite frankly, a lot of these today, especially with hybrid cloud environment, tend to be fairly manual tasks, which is somewhat the irony of this is that, the rapid rise of cloud adoption is actually causing, some of the operational aspects in terms of how IT organizations meet the needs of their end users. It's actually causing, obstacles in terms of streamlining that whole thing. So our platform addresses those sorts of things. Other key things are having a single point of user administration across all services. So if a user joins the organization, typically they'd be added to your enterprise directory. Generally, it's Active Directory. We have out-of-the-box connectors with Active Directory, so when that user is added to, let's say it's a new sales rep that's joined the company, they join the sales group, they're added to that group in Active Directory. We sync with that. That user is now added to our system, and then based on whatever rules you have defined for what services that sales guy should have, we will automatically provision him to, email, salesforce.com. Also, when that user comes to look at ad hoc services in the catalog, he'll be able to view things like chatter and things like that he's entitled to order based on his role within the organization. Another big thing that we do here is consolidate and unify all of the billing activities. So if you've got developers that are ordering infrastructure as a service instances off your own VMware or OpenStack environment, or from a public provider such as Azure or AWS, we capture all that real-time billing information. If you've got end users that are ordering, software as a service types of offerings, we capture that usage and billing information. And if you have your own applications that you're spinning up in your own cloud environment and delivering those virtualized applications as a cloud, on a subscription chargeback basis, we capture that usage information. So what you see is again, a lot of these things that have been talked about for years with ITIL around, sort of the service delivery model for IT organizations is essentially where we are today, and it's what our platform enables. The bottom part of this architecture is really speaking to how we enable organizations to manage their own hybrid infrastructure as a service environment. So being able to create workloads, app stacks, being able to deploy them across different types of infrastructure environments, being able to view the audits and alerts. And you'll see a lot more of that when Bob actually does the demo. The other key point here is that our platform is architected to be multi-tiered, multi-tenant. I guess the net here is that it makes it very conducive to a shared services delivery type of environment. So, a lot of our clients are very large organizations where they may have different, oftentimes have different agencies or different lines of businesses. But there will be, increasingly a larger number of the cloud services will sort of be managed at the very top layer. And then, but each line of business or each department or agency has the ability to then source their own services from that master catalog. So, again, it's a way to kind of scale up and also to enable LLBs to kind of customize their own catalogs based on their own specific needs, whether it could be the type of business they're in, the type of geography they're in, the languages spoken by their users, et cetera. So if I had to kind of summarize, what we've seen over the years in terms of best practices for hybrid cloud governance, really it comes down to, 4 key elements, which the first thing is communicating and enforcing cloud usage policies. And it's pretty amazing if you look at some of the the stats on this, but the vast majority of large organizations, when users are surveyed and IT organizations are surveyed, one of the questions, that I saw in a recent survey was, do you know what your organization's policies are in terms of, cloud services usage? And generally the answer is no, right? There is no, clearly communicated policy. And that comes down to things like which cloud services should you use, right? If you have a need for doing document collaboration, what is the standard service that's been, sanctioned to be used, regardless of whether it's, something running internally on SharePoint or from an external provider such as, Dropbox or Box.net. So a best practice for doing this, and again, this is something that's been talked about for years with the basic ITIL concepts, is to have a services catalog. part of the value of having a services catalog for all the users is that it's a communication vehicle for communicating what the appropriate services are in different service categories, right? And then, part and parcel with that, based on the different categories of services, based on the needs of the users that you have within your organization, you can also align your IT organization to have service owners that are responsible for each of those categories. In effect, they become kind of like portfolio managers, the business arm of the IT organization working with your internal customers. The ability to have departmental level or departmental specific catalog views. So if I'm a marketing guy and I'm logging into the services catalog, I'm not seeing, a bunch of stuff that aren't relevant to me and that, that I shouldn't be able to spend time trying to order. Risk management. There's a number of different flavors and areas that we could drill down into with respect to risk management. But one of the common things here is to enable single sign-on access for all users to all the cloud services that they're consuming, whether these are from external providers, whether these are from internal services that you've spun up. And there's obviously a convenience and usability benefit for enabling single sign-on for end users. But there's also an important element under compliance management in terms of being able to log all the user activity across all the different services from a regulatory compliance auditing standpoint, as well as from a spend management standpoint. Compliance management, you'll see in Bob's demo a very rich reporting layer, a data mart that allows, reports to be exported to external systems, detailed login of all system and user events, the ability to delegate administration where needed. Different geographies will have different compliance requirements, things like that, and alert monitoring. And finally, another key element here is spend management. So again, standardizing on a set of services that you communicate via your service catalog. So instead of having 14 different pockets of users signing up for 14 different versions of the same capability, you have 2 or 3 that can meet the needs of all the different users. That is a way to reduce costs, reduce risk, reduce compliance costs. It's also a way to enable you then to centralize the procurement to get better negotiate better rates with those down-selected providers. It's also a way, through the auditing and reporting, common way that you see, cloud costs going up as people spin up instances and they forget about them, or users get provisioned to services and they forget about them and never log in again. So being able to monitor, hey, I've got this instance that was spun up, 3 weeks ago, nothing, there's been no activity on it. Who's the owner for that? Maybe I can spin it down. Gee, I've got these 15 users that haven't logged into Salesforce.com over the last month. Hey, maybe I can reallocate those licenses to somebody else. So again, there's a lot more that I could talk about, but I just kind of wanted to give you a flavor for some of the different areas that you should be thinking about in terms of how you attack hybrid cloud governance, because as we talk about in the theme of this webinar, it's really kind of the key enabler for how you can adopt, deploy, and scale up your usage of cloud services in your organization. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Bob and let him do let him walk you through a demo of our system. So, okay, over to you, Bob.
Okay, thank you, Steve. The screen should be showing now. Very good. Okay, so I have logged in here to a store that right now is displaying a catalog of services. You'll see here a mixture of items. You'll see some software as a service like Everywhere and Motzi. You'll also see some infrastructure as a service, just basic compute offerings from Amazon, Microsoft Azure. And then you see some other items that we call application stacks or workloads. These are one or more virtual machines running on infrastructure as a service that are configured at runtime with Chef cookbooks or shell scripts. So this Magento, Postgres, LAMP servers, these are examples of that. I also have here like a bundle service. This item called My Service here is a bundle of two service offerings, one called Everywhere, and the other one hosted Microsoft Exchange. So this catalog, again, is an integrated catalog of the software as a service, infrastructure as a service, as well as app stacks, and other services as well, including bundles. Now, this catalog, going to Steve's point about being able to have departmental catalogs, first off, I just want to say this user that I'm logged into this server as is an enterprise admin. What I want to do is just quickly shift over to another screen where I'm going to log in as a different user, Kim. And Kim is a finance user. Now, Kim is in a different department as that admin, and when I go to the catalog screen for Kim, you'll see a different set of services, or in this case, a subset, right? So here's where you're seeing that in action with the different catalogs for the different users based on their department. Now, additionally, you look across the top here in this red row, and for Kim, you only see six items here. You're not seeing an infrastructure as a service item in here. I go back to my admin, this one here, then you will see the infrastructure as a service console. So these can be controlled, and various functions in the platform are controlled by our role-based access framework. So I'll go in here and take a quick look at that. If I scroll down to roles and privileges, here's where you can see for roles, you have 5 different roles here. I'll take a look at maybe the finance role here and view the details. And here's where you can see the granular permissions we're providing to features and functionality within the platform that would be relevant for such a role. For finance, as an example, if I scroll down, you really don't have a need for infrastructure and service management. Finance people probably aren't going to be spinning up virtual machines, but they might be wanting to get the usage data for them. So as you see here, there are many, many different granular permissions grouped by different functionalities within the platform that you can apply. You can add them over to the right-hand side here, or remove them and bring them in and hide them. So this role-based access control, again, provides a functionality limitations based on the role of the user, making sure that you have you're able to govern the abilities of people to do what they're supposed to do and not giving them abilities that they're not supposed to have. I talked a little bit earlier about the catalog management, right? The admin had a whole bunch of things in their catalog because he's in the IT group. It shows here 11 apps. But then the finance group had only 5 apps. I come in here and look, maybe I want to customize that catalog and add in something else. Maybe I want to add in Office Desktop. So I'll do that, save and finish. So now it shows that there are 6 apps. If I switch over to Kim again, you'll quickly see, whoops. If I refresh the catalog, you'll see that new service popping up. Office Desktop. So it's a quick way to manage the catalogs, making it, again, a powerful governance tool, helping to funnel your users to the right services that you want them to be using, helping you to get a handle on shadow IT. Now, one of the things that's kind of hard to demo here, but the users of these systems, in this store setup, I have it integrated with an Active Directory server. So, you know, when you're looking to trying to manage the catalog, that's something that's really specific to the platform. But in terms of managing users, their departments and roles, that's a generic enterprise functionality. That's something that Active Directory does very well. And that's what we're allowing here. Basically, all of the users that are created in Active Directory can be imported as users of the platform, or I should say synchronized. We have the store set up to synchronize every few minutes with the Active Directory to pull in the users, their roles, and their departments. So you can keep that management where it should be, again, following good governance best practices, using Active Directory for those types of functionalities. What I'd like to do now is switch gears a little bit and go over and show you a little bit about our workflow for adding or spinning up an application stack. I'm going to go ahead and pick up this Magento stack here. This one was designed by the application stack designer to run only on Amazon. Now, it's the application stack designer's determination that for whatever reason, they only want this to run on that one cloud. But you can have application stacks that can be run on multiple clouds. Basically, I could pick Amazon or VMware or Azure, whatever. And further, we can create an application stack with a hybrid design so that maybe the web server and the three-tier web application, the web server would be on Amazon, while the app server and database servers might be on private infrastructure like VMware. That can all be done here. In this case, I'm just going to spin up this machine, this Magento machine, and I'm going to give it a name, pick maybe the OS version that I want. And you see at the vendor, this vendor is only I'm only allowed to pick Amazon, but others could have Amazon and VMware in there. Pick my instance size. Maybe I want this to be a reasonably sized machine and one small. That looks pretty good. If I come here to the stack details, I'll call this the webinar stack, and you'll see here a budget code. There's functionality within the platform that you can enable to provide budget tracking so that you can get a good handle of where your costs are going and be able to track actuals versus budgeted items. I'm going to go ahead and enter a budget code. Give it a name. I'll give it stack 1 and a budget code, and I've selected those other values for the virtual machine. I'll go ahead and launch this application stack. And so another thing that we've worked into this platform is an approval workflow. In this demo, I just have a simple approval workflow where after I try to launch that stack, an email is going to be sent out to a designated administrator, who will then be notified that there is a request to spin up some virtual machine resources. They will then come into this screen here, and the requests. You see the approval pending item here. I'll go ahead and click view on that, and I'll approve this item. As you can see, I can approve or reject it, get some more details if I like. I'll go ahead and approve it. Confirm that. And we see I get a request receipt. At this point, I'll go in and look at the AppStack's screen, or the AppStack's console, the dashboard, and you'll see that webinar stack is starting to spin up. And if I click on that item, you can see the orchestration plan coming through, where it's creating plan, security groups, right? Then it's creating ports and starting to spin up, and it's spinning up that instance. It's now going to go through and start creating or running Chef Cookbook items to load Magento up on that and start running a full application. Now, as you'll see in here, I have a bunch of stacks in various statuses, some things that were in dev tests and they're having a little bit of trouble getting Chef Cookbooks working properly. You have some here where some other ones that are running, some that were ran and have been terminated. You could just go through and filter the list, look at only the running stacks. And you'll notice, well, it's a little hard to see here, but this Azure AppStack is running on Azure, and this one here is running on either VMware or OpenStack. It's just the naming convention I used. And so within one screen, you're able to see these workloads that are on multiple clouds, whether it's a private cloud, VMware, OpenStack, or public cloud, Amazon or Azure. Okay. Similarly, when you want to look at just basic instances, we can come in here into the instances screen, and we can see the list of instances here as well. You can see that Magento Linux is still getting spun up. That's the one that we had just created. You'll see some others in here. Look at this Azure one, for instance. You'll see from an operations management standpoint, we can do the things that you'd expect to do with a virtual machine. Right? You can stop, terminate, reboot, the basic lifecycle management. You can launch a secure shell into it and see, let's see what processes are running in this machine. And you'll notice here I have an SSH client built right into the browser. It's one of the nice features built into the platform, so you don't have to launch extra software and manage keys with too much hassle. It just automatically works right through the browser. So we can see more details about the machine, maybe get an IP address, that sort of thing. We can also attach storage volume, whether you just want some more, create a blank volume and attach it into the machine, or attach up an existing volume that might have some binaries on it so I can do some additional loading of software as an example. So here you see the basic, again, you'll see we have Azure, we have AWS down here, one pane of glass, one screen, giving me a status of all the virtual machines and allowing me to filter, based on their status, things like that. Okay, so, when it's important to recognize that when you're spinning up these virtual machines and you're I showed you the approval workflow, that is something that you don't have to have, right? If you don't want to have somebody being a gatekeeper for your users, it's an option that you have. You don't have to run through that approval workflow. But if you do, you then really get a good gatekeeper process helping to make sure that you're controlling that cloud sprawl, right? People aren't just spinning up virtual machines willy-nilly on any system. And by using our application stacks, you're really able to provide out there, have your architects create applications that are following best practices for things like hardening and deployment on what cloud you want to deploy certain applications. You're funneling people into the right behaviors. You can never totally control shadow IT, but you sure can help guide people towards the right decisions, and that's what you're going to get here with our infrastructure as a service functionality. Now, looking a little bit further at some of the monitoring capabilities, so in addition to being able to see all those machines and get into them operationally, we also have a dashboard here where you can just see the status of all the virtual machines out there at a glance, right? We have the overall instance status with the different statuses and any alarms that are still open. Okay? We want to drill into some of those. Maybe I'll drill into some of the instances here. And look here, we see the statuses again, and as the list builds out, we'll see a few different machines in here. We can see the alarms. Let's look at this lab stack as an example. Let's take a look. Let's look at the monitoring details for this one. And here you can see the various metrics that are being tracked for it. Memory utilization is pretty high for this machine. If I scroll down, I could see, it should be available in just a moment. Let's see, where was it? It was, it looks like it's already aged out, unfortunately. We saw the spike in memory utilization. It was right over here. It's fallen off the screen already. But basically, you can see the trend of when things are happening. You see it's increasing more memory here right towards the end, right near the time of my demo here. So you can get a good view of the different monitoring items here for the virtual machine. Additionally, for events, when you want to look at the alarms on different machines and maybe close out some of them because you reviewed what happened there and you want to go ahead and close it out, maybe this one here, yes, I've looked at this, I know what that is, let's go ahead and close that one out. I'll acknowledge it, and I'll just say, fixed script was my solution. Go ahead and click submit. So here you're getting, again, good operation control, some health metrics, a good dashboard of all of the machines from all the different clouds in one location. Okay. Now, besides just infrastructure as a service, Jamcracker, as I showed you in the catalog, has all this, the software as a service functionality as well. If I actually go over to our dashboard here, you'll see something else that Steven talked about earlier. If I look at my subscriptions as a user, we have a couple of subscriptions that I have Everywhere and Mozi. And here's where that single sign-on capability that Steven mentioned is implemented, right? You can just go and click on launch, and now I'm into Everywhere. Okay. Now, the roles of the user within that software as a service platform, in this case, Everywhere, are independent of the roles within Jamcracker. You'll probably have a Salesforce.com administrator who's maybe someone in the sales team, or one of the people supporting the sales team, but they're not necessarily going to be an administrator of Mozi nor of the Jamcracker platform itself. All of those roles are independent for each of the platforms. Okay. So that single sign-on capability, makes it really easy for when you're trying to say if that person has left the company. Instead of having to go and manually remember to turn them off on every application, you could just, within your Active Directory now, because we have this Active Directory, once they're disabled in Active Directory, they actually lose access to these services because it's coming through this portal. They weren't really given the login credentials to get into Everywhere Multi. So right away, they're turned off from all those other services. It really helps with some of the risk reduction in the government's risk and compliance functionality that you're looking at. Okay. And so further, as an admin, I can also just come down here and see at a glance the subscriptions that we're using within our company. And you can see that I've got 3 multi-desktops, but only 2 are in use, 2 of this new offer service, and only 1. Boy, I've got a lot of Everywhere new, and 3 of them are in use. But I know I have some more people coming on, and I'm going to need to order some more. So I'm going to come into here and go into View Details, look at this service a little bit more. And let's say I know I have a couple more people coming in, but I really just need 1 more license. I'll go ahead and apply that. It's telling me I was going to have a total subscription of 8, which is what I wanted. And then we'll go ahead and maybe assign to some users. Oops. I was going too fast. Get ahead of myself. We first go and buy that license that I wanted. Go ahead and proceed. Oop, I forgot to add a budget code, so let me go do that. So I'm going to apply to the budget that I have. And in just a moment. Look at that, I'm exceeding my budget.
Bob, you're having a lot of problems.
Now, this was on purpose, obviously. I wanted to show you that when you're actually ordering the service, you can be advised that you're exceeding the amount. And by default, we're just going to allow the people to keep ordering because budgets do get exceeded at times. You don't necessarily want to lock people down, be another roadblock, be another reason for them to go their own route with Shadow IT. But just let them know that they're exceeding the budget. We'll go ahead and click OK. And the request will go through. Okay, and the person approving that request, which I'll go into in a minute, will also see that that same sort of message when they're approving the request. Let me go do that now. Let me go to Manage the Requests. Go ahead here, click on View. And once I come down, again, this is the one I just ordered, more Everywhere, with that budget code. I'll go ahead and approve it. Yes, let's go ahead and approve it. And again, the person approving the service is going to be advised that they're going over the budget. And maybe for some reason they don't want to. They could cancel it and then not do the approval, or they could come through, click OK, and the license will be approved. Okay, so this is, again, giving you that governance, giving you some budget control, allowing you, by default, to just go ahead and approve it, but you're aware that the budget's being exceeded. Or with some slight customizations, we can go and force that as a workflow that it actually has to get approved, and the budget has to be, you have to be under the budget in order to be able to get that service. If I go back and look at the dashboard now, you should see that we now have 8 licenses, just like I expected. Okay. Now, a little further on the budgets, right? I showed you as you're going through trying to order something or approve something, you're going to see the budget notifications after entering your budget. But here's where you define them. It's basically an Excel file that you would upload. I'll just show you an example here that we provide where you specify a date range, right? The code itself, what's the description for that budget, what amount you want to assign to that budget, and what threshold, at what point do you want administrators to be alerted that the budget is coming, going to be, is starting to be used up quite a bit. Okay, so this sample template here, you basically customize that, fill it out, then upload it, and you can have your budgets uploaded and new budgets added into the system. Now that's how you help to manage those budgets in terms of defining them. When you want to look at actuals versus what your budget is, the showback report does that. The showback report here is a simple Excel report that's showing, okay, for the Everywhere IT team, that's the budget code I had entered, $50 was allocated, and I'm actually consuming 64 now. So these are really low numbers, obviously, but for the demo, you get the point that I have exceeded that budget. I see that my actuals are over what I had budgeted.
So in this case, Bob, you're showing the showback of CSV file that was exported to an Excel file. But that CSV file could be exported to a finance and accounting system or something like that, right?
Absolutely. What we see commonly are that billing-related data is often exported to a company's existing resource management system or billing system. So maybe they have SAP that's managing this. Typically, we'll have a cron job scheduled to periodically send out, whether it's the showback report or other billing, other cost reports as well. It doesn't have to be just the showback report.
And that would work on the budget import as well. That could be imported, via an automated task as opposed to uploading a spreadsheet. Yeah.
Sure. Additional reports are useful for governance, right? So we're looking at the budgeting functionality, but more than that, you want to see who's actually using, something as an example, who's using the services. So yeah, we're buying them. People have been subscribed to them, but are they actually using them? Well, by using this user service access report, I could do on demand, or again, I could have this scheduled to be sent out periodically. I could see that, well, Jim is pretty active, Kim is pretty active, and Jim and the admin have both used it as well. So we are seeing some usage, especially today. Okay.
So, for example, if you saw that Jim hadn't logged in since July or whatever, then that might be an opportunity to.
You probably want to contact us, see if she's still using it, and if not, just come in and like I had added that additional Everywhere license, you could actually have that be a negative number and remove licenses from your subscription.
Because I know if, I guess I'm a bad culprit of this myself, but I love to sign up for new services, try them, and then I kind of forget about them if I'm sort of left to my own devices. So.
Yep. Maybe you found something better. Right?
Yeah.
So another report that's probably going to be useful is an order history. So, seeing who bought what when and what the pricing was for that is also a valuable report helping to maintain some financial controls. So you can see here all the different services, when they're requested, activated, when the billing started, what's the current status, etc. So this billing report is something else. Again, these canned reports here can be custom, can be exported on a periodic basis to some external system as needed. Some additional reports could be created for you. But if you really, what we're finding is that companies have their own business analytics tools and teams to really look at the data and get the most out of it. And so what we've done, instead of trying to create yet another analytics platform in our platform that's only for us, we've created some data marts. So these data marts will expose things like the users, the orders, and billing information, etc., that you can also basically create custom reports, schedule out on a certain basis, and be exported to other platforms like Tableau or whatever to actually get the visualization, get the information you need so that you can make the proper business decisions.
Well, Bob, maybe take a minute, because there's been a number of questions that have come in kind of along those lines of not only importing, exporting, budget, billing reports, things like that, but also just extending the core capability of the platform, tying into some of the questions were around, do you connect to ITSM vendors such as BMC? Can we tie this into other directories other than Active Directory? Can we, extend other capabilities? So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see that in almost every deployment that the customers they already have something that's maybe doing their own ticket management, but they want to have some ITIL framework or their financial controls, for instance. Or maybe they already have their own catalogs too, and they want to add Jamcracker catalogs in there. We see integration along those lines all the time. And we've exposed hundreds of RESTful interfaces, APIs, to be able to do that, to be able to run it even headless, if you like, so that it can be controlled by other systems completely. Or you can leverage just certain aspects of a platform, turn them off in the UI here, but then have some other system being used for those functions and controlling the Jamcracker platform via those APIs. So, the common method you see, again, those RESTful APIs for catalog, user management, And for any sort of billing data, typically that's a scheduled CSV export, and that will fit. We can customize those exports to be workable into any customer's financial system.
Okay. One other question, well, actually there's a few more, but one I'll address right now. I'll take this one. This is around the deployment model. So is this something that our customers use as a cloud service that we run, or is it something, or is it software that they could install in their own data center? And the response to that is it could be either. We've got lots of experience in both cases. So we can run it as a managed service. We have partners who run it as a managed service. Certainly in the government side of things, working with a number of partners there who are running as a service on behalf of their government customers. Typically with very large organizations, they like having the flexibility to run it on-premise. They may start with running it in the cloud, but at some point they want to be able to run it on-prem. So great question.
Yeah, good answer.
All right. So anything else, Bob?
No, I think that's it. I've showed the main aspects, the catalog, and how that can be, divvied up by department. The role-based access control there as well, giving you control over who could do what within the platform. The workflow for ordering an application stack, helping to manage the budgets and that showback report. The operations dashboard for seeing a single pane of glass, the virtual machines and application stacks, managing the alarms for them, etc. And the single sign-on functionality that again makes it very easy to manage the comings and goings of employees, making it very easy to reduce the risk when somebody leaves the company. You can turn them off in one location in your Active Directory, which is where you're doing all your other important stuff for your employees, and simplify it.
Okay, so I have retaken control from you, and back to well, Bob, thank you very much, and I commend you because this is, as we both know, this is doing a demo on our platform is very difficult to do in a 20 or 30-minute time.
Yeah, I went over my count again. So. Well,
no. Usually it's like usually it takes a couple hours to do a really, do it justice. But a good kind of teaser view. Certainly, if any of you would like to have a follow-up session to get a better look under the covers, we'd be happy to do that. Just reach out to us. So I'm going to end with just a couple of case studies, just to kind of illustrate some of the things that we've been talking about, how different organizations are approaching their, whole cloud governance types of needs. The first one I'll start with is unfortunately I can't list the name of the company specifically. I'll just characterize it as a global automotive manufacturer. And one of the key things that drove them to to work with us is they were very concerned about the governance aspects of end users going out on their own and adopting and signing up for public cloud services, software and service providers, things like that. This is a very common issue in organizations of all types. It's labeled variously as shadow IT or cloud sprawl, things like that. And essentially these employees, they're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to become more productive. If that means if they need a solution for communicating or sharing large documents with external partners, they're going to go out and sign up for a Dropbox or a Box.net and things like that. And as they should, if it ultimately makes the organization more effective and competitive, that's a good thing. The problem, of course, with that is, not having the proper controls around that. So, and it's a careful balance in terms of you don't want to set mandates and policies and all that stuff that in essence stamps out innovation from the line of business users. That's not the right approach. The right approach is to work with the LOBs as the IT organization, understand what their needs are. So, a common example is a lightweight document collaboration solution. So, work with the LOBs, understand those needs, great. Okay, I've got other users, other user departments that are coming to me, the IT department, saying they have similar needs. Great, I can consolidate all this. We can standardize on Box or whatever the case may be. It's the sort of the lightweight document collaboration solution. I'll turn it over to my vendor management guys. So instead of having 15 different departments with 15 different contracts individually with Box, now I can consolidate that and negotiate a better price on behalf of the organization, et cetera. Now, not only do I have that benefit, but by now provisioning users and monitoring their usage through this platform, the governance platform, now I can show, when I have my Sarbanes-Oxley audit next year, I can show good, verifiable audit reports that, here's one of the cloud services we're using, here are the users that have access, here's all the logs in terms of when they logged in and things like that. And I can do more effective spend management too. If I've got users that sign up for it but never use it, then I can, reallocate those licenses. So very much, kind of the classic governance type of things from a risk management compliance standpoint, from a spend management standpoint, and also in terms of actually implementing a chargeback model based on usage of these services through this platform. So great case study example. So that's where they're starting with the phase 1 of their deployment. Phase 2, they will then kind of tackle the okay, great, how do we become more streamlined, more flexible, more agile internally in terms of how we manage our own infrastructure services, how we spin up new application services, and how we put a cloud delivery model around those, virtualized apps to, be able to deploy those more effectively with our end users. So great example here, and I think we've got time for one more, which is really a good illustration of a kind of a shared services model. In this case, we're talking about CETA. If you're not familiar with CETA, they are a huge IT services provider that is owned and operated by 450 of the largest airlines, air transport companies. So, essentially they are operating a community IT cloud for their airline owners and customers. CETA has a number of different data centers, different parts of the world, their own services that they deliver up, but they are also using our platform to aggregate and deliver third-party cloud services that are needed by the airlines as well. So, again, same things that we talked about in terms of governance, new business models and things like that is, good example shown here. I'm going to skip through the last one. I've tried to address questions as they've come up. We've got a number of others. We'll follow up with you individually. I guess one other set of questions we're getting is, can I get a copy of the slides? And also, will there be a recording available of this? And the answer is yes. If you're interested in a copy of the slides, please send us an email at information@jamcracker.com. And there will be a recording available in a few days as well. Tony, I'll turn it back over to you.